Now this is one of my favourite houseplants, Monstera deliciosa, commonly known as the Swiss cheese plant. When I was growing up, this was the houseplant to have, and today, well, it's just as popular. You would train them to grow up moss poles and give a proportion of your home a really exotic tropical look. And its fantastic foliage has holes in it. And this is the feature that was the inspiration for the common name, because it looked like Dutch cheese with the holes, and that's where it's got the name, the cheese plant. Now, unlike the dairy delicacy, you shouldn't actually eat these leaves at all because they can be harmful if you ingest them. So if you've got cats and dogs who eat your plants, this is not really the plant for you. Plants, I'll give them many names, but there's two really important ones. One is the genus, which is the noun, and the second is the species, which is the adjective. So for this plant, the word Monstera, well, you've guessed it, it means monstrous, as it refers to the huge size that it can grow, up to 60 foot in its natural habitat. And indoors, they can reach up to the height of 3 meters tall with a spread of about 75 centimeters. They can grow very quickly too. It's a great houseplant to have, up to 30 centimeters per year, depending on the size of the plant when you buy it, of course. You may need to repot them sooner rather than later, and you may also need to give the plant a bit of support too. Now you've got Monstera. What does the second word mean, deliciosa? Well, it refers to the fruit that's grown on this plant in its native habitat, and deliciosa as in delicious. And it's highly unlikely that any fruit will be produced as a houseplant because the conditions aren't really right for them. However, in the wild, these fruits are safe to eat, but only when they're ripe. So how do you make your Monstera deliciosa, or delicious monster, as I like to call it, feel really at home in your own home? Well, mimicking the exact conditions of a Central American rainforest in your home could be a bit difficult and uncomfortable for yourself too. But here's some helpful hints and tips that you can do a few things in your home to make a happy environment for your beautiful cheese plant. First up is lighting. In terms of the sun, they need plenty of bright but indirect sunlight. So you have to get the balance right. Too much sunlight can increase a lot of the temperature and cause sun scorches, or can cause them to go a little bit yellow. And on the other hand, not enough light will mean there isn't enough for them to photosynthesize and produce food. So making sure on a brightly lit windowsill is really the anchor, or a corner of a room that doesn't get intense heat and still gets a little bit of light. Now, all plants naturally go towards the light, and the leaves will face towards the light as you grow them because it's getting the maximum amount of use. That's how you can tell artificial plants in nightclubs and restaurants, because the leaves are facing all over the place, not facing towards to the window where the light is coming in. But these cheese plants here have a unique ability to also grow towards the dark. And it's growing towards the dark to find the shade. And the shade is cast from the tallest tree in the forest, effectively, because this plant has climbing ability and will climb up the tree to get to the sunlight at the top. But in your own homes, the secret is well-lit position, not in direct sunlight. And then, if you clean the leaves on a regular basis, they can absorb that light and produce energy to grow. Now, once you put your plant in the right position, you need to give them the best care too. And one of the first things you need to care about is watering the plant. Knowing when to water is one of the great conundrums of keeping houseplants. You can do it in many different ways. One, you can look at the surface of the soil, but if you've got a big container like this, it may be dry on the top, but still wet underneath. And you can identify by feeling the weight of the houseplant. I mean, that feels pretty dry because it's pretty light. The other thing is plants will naturally tell you when they're thirsty because they start to wilt. But the best thing to do is to just check on your plant and water little and often. If you've got a big container plant in the corner of your lounge and you're taking water to that plant, you want to water on a weekly basis during spring and summertime, and then diminish the water during the winter. If it's a lightweight container or a baby version of your cheese plant, you can always put the plug in the sink, put a couple of inches of water, stand your houseplants in the sink, leave them there for half an hour to suck up the water they need, take the plug out, let it drain, and then return it back into position. So the secret is water little and often, and during the winter you trail it off because plants always need to rest.